Robin Clutterbuck. I'm a National Coordinator for the Gallipoli Centenary Education Project. This is the end of a 2-year project which bracketed the Gallipoli Centenary. So we started just before, and we've done various activities through the centenary year of 2015 mainly. It's the sort of peak in the way, the culmination of it, because we're presenting all of the different activities. We've had a large number of projects. Our main focus has been looking at regional projects which have taken place in various parts of Britain. But in addition to that, and as we've found today, we've also been able to draw in interest from other countries that were involved at Gallipoli, and we're delighted to have a visitor from Australia to tell us their angle, and we've had a visit from Turkey, a Turkish doctor, and we've also had a wonderful delegation that's come from Ireland.
Today, in Australian schools, we are taught the implication of all wars, the tragic loss of life and the suffering. In Australia, the Gallipoli landing is our heritage. It defines us as a nation. The traits of endurance, courage, ingenuity, good humour, larrikinism, camaraderie and of course mateship, which our men and women showed, is what Australians are recognised by today.
I am Dr. Burçin Çakır and I am from Turkey. I live in Glasgow and I'm a postdoctoral fellow at Glasgow Caledonian University. This is the first time that I will be able to listen from young people and what does Gallipoli mean to them. So I didn't want to miss this chance to be with them today and see how Gallipoli Education Project came to this point, which makes a huge influence on the schools all around Britain, Ireland and Scotland. Many of the students visited the peninsula and they were with the school children, school pupils back in Turkey, and there was clearly an obvious interaction between them. It was very nice to hear their stories.
When we met Turkish youths there, they told us after a few hours of knowing them and getting on well with them that they thought that we were going to be really arrogant and rude, and it's quite interesting because they then got to know us and realised we weren't like that. It's quite interesting to think that possibly that opinion harks back to World War I and how that relationship has been distorted because of what happened there.
To us, it didn't really seem like a world war. It just seemed like a war between France and Germany and Belgium. You know, the western side. You didn't really consider Turkey and the kind of the massacre that happened.
Before we left for Gallipoli on our trip, the surviving nephew of Ernest Simmons, who himself is an old boy of West Buckland, visited during our lunchtime to tell us about his uncle.
When he was a young man, of course, it was the thing to be in the TA army, and if you were lucky you got into a posh regiment, the North Devon Hussars, otherwise you went into the infantry.
One of the cemeteries we visited, which contains bodies of some of the soldiers, is Hill 10 Cemetery. Here some of us read our eulogies which we had written based on our feelings towards the brave soldiers.
Dearest Fred, although you died 100 years ago on the 8th of November 1915, I feel I must share with my friends around me the sacrifice you made for your country.
It's fantastic for our students to actually visit the area where these old boys died and see their graves. We've had our art department get engaged in some artwork, and they've given the interpretations of some of the stories of the soldiers from the North Devon area who actually died at Gallipoli or served.
We did quick 1-minute sketches, which included things like shell cases, matchboxes.
What I wanted to do is I wanted to capture the contrasting sides of a soldier's life, and I tried to show the kind of the raw side of it using materials like mud and sand and dirt.
A little bit about Islington in case you don't know us. We're in North London and we're incredibly culturally diverse. Particularly, we've got a very large Turkish and Kurdish population, which is particularly important for this project. I did 2 projects. I did a music project and an art project that came together in a commemorative video meditation on Gallipoli and Islington's connections with it. For the music project, I worked with 5 primary schools. We worked with 2 musicians and a sound artist over 3 workshops and 1 large recording session.
for all of us, initially, it starts on a personal level. So I'm quite sure that particularly in the schools you found a lot of really interesting and moving personal accounts about individuals and what they've been through and the horrors, because that's something that we all tend to get drawn to.
Today we're going to talk about Harrow School and Gallipoli, the meaning of Gallipoli to us and how Harrow influenced Gallipoli in its own small way.
All of them stood 6'4", they threw to 100 yards or more, and never were lame or stiff or sore. And we compared to the days of yore, are cast in a pygmy mold. So it's kind of the thing how we'll never really be as great as those who came before us. And I think that Gallipoli really created giants of old, including Winston Churchill and those who won Victoria Cross and stuff, whose values and actions serve as a mold for which current Harrovians can really live up to. So I think that's what Gallipoli means to Harrow.
From Cumbria's Museum of Military Life based in Carlisle Castle. Caroline and Kirsten represent this team of folk here that came together for the other part, which wasn't through school but through them actually volunteering their time to look at the Border Regiment, and Carlisle Castle was the home of the Border Regiment during the First World War.
I think it's been a great experience being able to work with the museum, because if that's it's something that I want to do in the future. It's been brilliant just to build up my confidence in myself.
We had the cadets from our hometown come, and they did the marches and the salutes and everything, and then we could also have anyone from the public could come see it, so it was something that they wouldn't normally be available. Yeah, it wouldn't be available to them.
What they did in this school in County Dublin, they got a cross-curricular approach, as most of you did, but they took it from art to singing, music. They had they baked, as you might have seen in the back, the Anzac tiles, or sort of biscuit foods, dry food that the soldiers would have had with a bit of milk powder soaked in water and milk powder, and I pass it around. It's just really like a tile.
I'm going to read a letter based on our research of the PALT. My dearest brother Henry, I hope this letter finds you and mother well. I'm currently in hospital because I was wounded in the foot during our last battle. It is actually great to have a hospital bed and uninterrupted night sleeps away from the flies.
For the Gallipoli project, we did a film based on Sean's great-grandfather who took part in Gallipoli. And from all the research we did, we took a trip to our local barracks and all the internet research, we decided to do a film.
It was traditional for sons to join the Fusiliers, and they would obviously have joined as officers.
We're over there with Carton Acre.
Caithfidh tú bheith stúmacrí, caithfidh tú bheith ciúlmhar.
So go on Laura Carda, má clarín siúb le Aaron Sasna go mé gríomh stúchas cuin na nolig. To spawn me to Westminster go féad lo bra Aaron and all Mangáhar.
After lots of discussion, they made 2 big felt banners over the course of 4 weeks.
The school's fortunate to still have the head teacher's diary from the First World War period. An entry for the 20th of May 1921 states that a memorial tablet recording the names of former pupils who fell in the Great War was unveiled today.
Maria, as part of our group, had created an iMovie which is on the Gallipoli website, but we've also got a copy here which gives a complete overview of everything we did. This is written by Katie Farmer, who's actually our head girl in Youth Academy. I tried to face ahead, holding my daughter's smile in my mind, but the screams from the back of the boat forced me to turn. Bullets tore through the men behind me, slamming some into the blood-stained water. Others lay still, their cold eyes to the sky. The sea of men and air of screams flashes through my mind again, making me wish that I had never turned around that day.
And also consider the fact that when we're talking about a world war, there are many, many different ways of perceiving the relevance of something and respecting the relevance of something and somebody else's point of view or somebody else's motive. History, if any of you are interested in pursuing history further in your lives, I think if you stick with that more than anything else, if you remember this idea that there are so many different viewpoints that make up a picture, not just one, you won't go too far wrong.
I'm glad that I understand the sacrifice they went through, and I can relate to some of the things he went to, and going on that trip last year was a real eye-opener for me.
To explore the history of other nations and how the war affected them. It's useful for people our age because it can help us to empathise and to be more culturally aware of other nations.
With the transnationality of soldiers and their stories, it can be easily implemented into curriculums as an example of the horribles, terribles of war, but at the same time a good example of how reconciliatory rhetoric around discourse around Gallipoli can create friendship, mateship, and can create a humanly side of politics.
The important thing about engaging students in history such as Gallipoli is that they can relate to events in the past in a way that can then help them understand their present and give them a sense of what might be their responsibility for the future. So we are who we are because of where we've come from, who we are now, and what we intend to be. And the fact that we are doing this with school children who will be the leaders of tomorrow is, I think, a very significant event, and I am grateful for the Gallipoli project in making that happen.